Welcome back, lovelies. Today we're going to talk about dating, specifically my dating life, how I didn't have my first kiss until I was 19, my first boyfriend until I was 20, got married and then divorced, and now I'm back in another relationship. We're going to talk about it all, and I cannot believe I'm going to do this. Oh, let's hit it, let's get it, let's go. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications to stay on the sexy, stylish side of YouTube. Let's get into this dating history because it's not cute. We are heading to Richmond, Virginia. I'm gonna go hang out with a friend, gonna go see boyfriend. I just found out he's most likely getting stationed in Europe, so that is interesting. I don't know what it is with me and long distance relationships. So they literally never start out long distance and somehow they always become long distance. I have no clue what that's about. My first ever boyfriend, which by the way is when I was 19 years old. That's sad, but also growing up as a plus size woman, I did not really have a lot of experience dating, and that really set me up horribly for the dating market because up until that point, I had only really ever seen my parents' relationship, which they've been married 40 years. They have figured out a lot. They counsel couples. They coach couples together. They are #marriage goals. And then not only that, a lot of the men in my life, even just like, not even just my brothers, but the men who were in church, the men who were in community, they all were seemingly, now of course I didn't know everything right at the time, but like they all seemed like they were great guys. I always felt like protected and taken care of and understood and all these different things, but I just never ended up dating anyone. I got a couple times close. There were like 2 guys in high school who seemed to be like interested in me, but honestly, I'll be so for real, my brother was not a fan of me dating one of them, which I like later understood why. And then the second guy, I think my brother also didn't really like him. Wait, is my lack of dating experience because of my brother? Am I just not realizing that? I also wasn't that interested in either one of them. It was more kind of like, in my mind, I was like, well, I've never had a date, so of course I should date. I am very glad that he didn't just let me, just go into that experience all willy-nilly, right? Like not even really giving it any thought and not actually being that interested in the person. But that kind of like thought process though of like, oh, I should just date this person just to see what it's like, or just because I don't know if another person will come around. I'm gonna just speak to my experience. I won't say that that's common among plus size women because we're so different. There's so many versions of plus size women that I don't want to sit here and generalize, but I do think that women in general, and maybe even people in general, when it comes to dating, we have this like scarcity mindset where it's like, yeah, I'm never gonna find a person who's better than this one that I just found. Sure, they've got some problems, but we'll work through it. Because at that time, I guess, I don't know, it's like you think that that's the best that you're gonna have. So first boyfriend was 19 and I was not at all prepared. It's your first love, like everybody knows how it goes, you fall hard. And he was just like not a great person. And I remember my friend telling me, she told me this years later, because he was kind of a guy who was perceived as an asshole. And I don't know what it was with me. I was like, no, they're not really assholes. They just, they're just misunderstood. Why was I defending this man? I have no clue why. So in my mind, I'm like, no, he's really sweet with me and this and that and da-da-da-da, which is also kind of a red flag. If you're the only person he's sweet with in the sense of like he's nice to, That's a problem. He should be nice to all people, all women, not just you. And so my friend was like, she's like, if he's being perceived by many people as an asshole, he's probably an asshole. And of course, I'm still just like, no, he's misunderstood. Years later, I was like, oh my gosh, she's totally right. Things were great in the beginning with him, and we started out, we had a summer together. It was summer after my freshman year, which is, again, this is all just wild, how I was 19 years old in college and just having my first boyfriend. So summer after my freshman year, we met back at home. We had been in the same school, but I don't think our paths really ever crossed. Like, we had some mutual friends, but he was also a grade younger. I'm in college. It was sophomore year. It was summer of my sophomore year. I didn't have my first kiss until I was 19. And my first ever boyfriend was when I was 20. It was the summer of my sophomore year. I had gone back home just because, you go back home after college. I was so active in high school that I felt burnt out by the time I got to college. And I was not bringing the same energy to college that I had brought to high school, which is honestly where I should have saved my energy for, is college. All that to say though, I was back home relaxing, just like having a chill summer, trying to find a summer job. I'm pretty sure I ended up like going back to Smoothie King for a while. That was my first ever job. So I'm home and our paths start crossing again. I'm not really sure how it started, but we start hanging out and eventually we do decide to like be boyfriend and girlfriend, be exclusive and date. Of course, then I have to go back to college, right? So he had a longtime friend who was a girl, and long story short, like almost a year into the relationship, he ends up cheating on me with that girl. Now, I was a horrible listener back at this time. I'll be so for real. I didn't even fully understand what he told me. I didn't realize that he said that he had cheated on me, because the way he said it, and to be quite frank, he wasn't the best communicator. Maybe he was trying to sugarcoat it and mask it with all these feelings. And I'm just like, okay, I forgive you. Which again, like, girl, what in the world were you doing? Like, is you dumb? I feel like I was that dumb bitch. And I hate to say that, but I was. Oh my gosh. Because it didn't stop there. So that was the first relationship ever. And then after that, of course, first relationship, first love, I am just like heartbroken, but I'm also just like, I'm still just trying to have fun and talking with my friends and focus on my, like, building a career for myself, figuring out what I want to do with my life. So doing all of that junior, senior year, I would say like the experience people have in college is the experience that I had after college. It's all just like delayed. And I don't know if this is just me as a plus size girly, I feel like in my mind, I attribute it to that just because of the way we were perceived. And then also, I'll just be honest, like half of things that have improved with plus size, like the plus size experience, is because we have better clothes. I saw a video about this 2-3 years ago, and I was like, this girl is so right. Like, we can dress our bodies better. We can dress in a way that accentuates all of our curves, rolls, whatever. And I think that has contributed to the way people perceive plus size people. So just everything that had to happen growing up, I attributed a lot of the things that I missed out on in high school to my size. But honestly, looking back, I think it was more a mental barrier than a physical barrier. Of course, like fashion wise, that's real. But I think where I was in my mind, the lack of representation. And I'm by no means saying that like things should have been different. I think that given the way things were, it was probably always supposed to happen that way. But what I'm saying is it just left me unaware of how to really date and talk to somebody and what dating is. And I mean, even stuff that my parents used to say, like men and women can't be friends, like that colored my perception of like just male, like having relationships with males. And I do have a friendship with a guy who I've known since high school, and we've literally just been friends. So I'm like, well, they weren't right about that. But anyway, okay, first relationship's down. We're finishing out college, having a time of our life after college, got a job, back home, traveling to New Orleans like every other weekend with my friends. No clue why. we would like meet up on a Friday for like after work drinks or something. And then we'd be like, y'all trying to go to New Orleans tonight? We would literally drive 3 hours to New Orleans that night, just like out the blue. And it was so much fun. And I'm just having a good time talking to guys. Still not really I don't know, just this was my way, I guess, of experimenting and just like starting to have conversations. And I kind of thought I was looking for marriage, but I really don't think at that time I was. I was just kind of like talking to people to talk to people. So fast forward 2 years after college, and I, during that time, had decided I really want to go to Switzerland and I want to study abroad. I want to get my master's in international relations. So I'm in Switzerland, meet this guy on Tinder. We meet at this club, Funky Monkey. I was hanging out with my flatmates, my new flatmates, which that's a whole other story. In Switzerland, I lived with 2 guys, which I thought was gonna be the most calm, seamless, easy experience. It was absolutely not. It was actually one of the worst living situations of my life. I'm not gonna get into all the details now. You can let me know if you wanna hear that whole story. But the experience that I had living with those flatmates, it kind of positioned this guy that I had met a little bit like a hero or a savior at that time in my life, because I was really just going through it with them. And he would allow me to, like, I would go to his sister's apartment like every weekend. It just felt like I was able to he helped me get away from them. And we dated throughout my entire time in school. He came home to meet my parents. My mom was not a fan. My mom literally said to me, her words, "He is not what you need." And at the time, I did not know what she meant by that, but let's just say she was right. Fast forward 2 years later, when we got married and he came to live in the US, I have to say, it's just like he gave up, or he stopped trying, or he stopped being the person who I had met in Switzerland and the person who I had come to respect and appreciate. And he just became someone that I did not recognize. And I tried to get him help. I tried to talk to him about things, but it was like he would always get defensive. If somebody has a problem, if my partner, or the person that I'm with, has a problem, then we're going to do what we can. We are going to find a way to help you address this problem. But if you're not at all taking steps or interested in fixing that problem, then it becomes a problem for me. And it was a problem for me because now I'm being negatively impacted. And I think a feeling that you never want to have in a relationship is this feeling that it's you or me. It should always be, right, it's us, right? We're a unit, we're together, right? We're in this together. But it had become a you versus me. And the best analogy I can give you is I'm climbing up this mountain. I'm just trying to get to the top, babe. I'm like, oh, if I can get to the top, everything is gonna be all right. And it's just like every now and again, he just trips. You know, you don't trip on purpose, you just fall over, right? And then it drags us down a little bit. And then, okay, we start the climb again, and then he just trips and it drags us down again. So I just felt like I don't see him making an actual effort to change. And when I bring this up, when I try to get him advice, get him into therapy, or even just find him a male mentor, all these different things, he's not open to them. And the only time he responds is when I say that I am, ready for a separation or I'm ready to leave. The time to respond is the other 30 times I said it, not now. This is not the time to respond. So all of that was very frustrating. I knew my marriage at the time was affecting my mental health, but I didn't realize to what extent until I actually ended up in the hospital with chest pains one night. And the doctor did all these tests. He's like, well, everything looks good. There's no blockage. There's nothing going on here. No blood clots. Like, everything looks fine. You maybe just have this condition like costochondritis, which is just inflammation of the sternum. If you started a new workout, if you were recently sick and you were coughing heavily, like that could cause some inflammation in the sternum. So I was like, this don't make any sense, because I hadn't started a new workout. I was doing the same thing I'd been doing, and I didn't have a cold recently. But what I noticed after that doctor's visit is that every time that we would have a discussion or we got into an argument, I just noticed that chest pain coming back up. It was literally anxiety and stress, and it was starting to physically affect me. And that is what I mean when I say it became you or me, and I chose me. I ended that marriage. Let me be very specific. We were married. We got divorced. So I ended that And I would say the next year, I felt like, okay, at this point, I know what I want in a marriage. I know what I'm looking for in a husband. My mom was like, he's not what you need. And what we talked more about this later. And what she meant by that, which she was correct, is like, I am a very strong-willed woman. I'm a very motivated woman, very ambitious. I'm independent, even though I would like to be with someone and be dependent on someone too. But it's like, or us dependent on each other. She was like, you need a strong man. You don't need somebody who is passive and who can't speak up for themselves, who doesn't have their own ideas, who doesn't have their own goals, because all of those things, you're going to have to step in and take care of those things, and it is going to drain you. And it absolutely drained me. The next year, I'm like dating, you know, I'm back on the apps. I took a few months off, of course, but I'm like back on the apps, kind of talking to people here and there. I end up meeting a few cool guys, and then some of them turn into like, okay, this seems really promising, but then they just switch up. I'm going to use the architect as the example, and I do love my nicknames with my men. You will learn that. So the architect, he was in fact an architect, and he was, you know, very ambitious. He had a background as well in like investing, and so he seemed to have his finances together, his life together. He said he was ready for a wife, ready to have a family, like, you know, wanted as many kids as he could afford. He would take me on really nice dates, very unique dates. You know, it was a fun time, but he was absolutely an avoidant person. I think that he said he was ready for a wife and family, and he really wasn't. And so when it became clear that like, okay, well, this is the direction that, yeah, it seems like we're moving in, I just think that he got scared, honestly, and backed out. And I've had this happen where I've had, I think, guys break up with me because they think I'm gonna break up with them. Hey, maybe I'm full of myself, but I think that is in fact what happened with some of these past little situationships. But that whole dating experience, it was going somewhere and then it wasn't. And that's how it seemed to be happening with a lot of guys. Things seemed to be going places and then they weren't. And I would say with the architect, it hit hard because it seemed like we were so compatible. Like, y'all, he even did a personality test with me. And I love personality tests. They're not 100% accurate, but it does give you an idea of like maybe some strengths and weaknesses or things you just want to be aware of about the other person. We did that. We had really good conversations. That's the thing. I truly believe that the architect love bombed me. He said all these things. He said that he was in love with me, which I knew was too soon. Girl, I knew it was too soon. Don't we always know it's too soon? But we ignore it. And yeah, he ghosted me, and that was that. I was honestly crushed after that experience. I was just tired. I was literally over dating. Because I used to be like, how are women deciding not to date anymore? Like, I don't understand this. No, at that point, I fully understood it. Because it's like, man, if this is gonna be this much drama and this much stress, this much of a distraction to what I'm trying to do, I'd just rather be single. And hey, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not gonna go out of my way being on dating apps, talking to people. I'm not gonna go out of my way to make it happen. And so I spent the next year doing that. I was by no means closed off to meeting people, but I just was off the apps. I had decided I'm no longer actively pursuing a relationship right now. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this is very sad, but that next year was so much fun. When I tell you I had nothing to talk to my therapist about, that like after I had, because we had already worked through like relationship things and what are you looking for in a man, all this stuff. And after I decided to no longer date, I had nothing to talk with my therapist. She'd be like, what are your highs and lows this week? And I was like, you know what? Everything was actually high. Everything was good. And that started to be a pattern. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get what the girlies are saying. They're the problem. We're a year into that whole experience of not dating. I had so much fun, like best summer, made new friends. It was such a good time. And I would meet guys. I did go on dates, but I had just removed the pressure of wanting to be in a relationship. I was just like, talking to them to meet them and get to know them and see if I even like them as a friend first. I decided in my head, I was like, I don't know where I learned that you know what? It's probably because my mom and dad had told me that men and women can't be friends. So it never crossed my mind to first try to be a friend with a guy and see if you even like him as a friend first before you go and, you know, try to date that guy. I truly believe that's probably what began my perception of dating and how it should be and how I was supposed to interact with guys and all this, when really they're just people too. And I want to be with somebody who I like as a friend, who I respect as a friend, who I want to root for as a friend. So fast forward, right, we're a year later. I have now moved away from Chicago and I moved in with my parents. I'm originally from Mississippi. At this point, my parents had moved to Indiana. So I moved in with my parents, which was a very hard decision, but it has turned out to be one of the best decisions. And not just because I met the guy that I'm currently dating now, but just life-wise. Y'all, my finances, when I say they are getting in order, like, your girl is out here adulting hard, okay? So I'm very excited about that. Things with my content have been better. Things just with my business overall. I've been in such a more creative mood. I had to step away from the big city and come back home. And it's also just been great for my relationship with my parents, getting to talk about all these things from when I was younger and rebuilding our relationship as, you know, now, of course, I'm still their child, but I am an adult and they do recognize that. They do, you know, treat me as an adult, which I very much appreciate. It's been such a good experience. So I'm back at home. I decide, you know what, I don't know anybody here. Let me get back on one dating app. And that was only after 3 of my friends on 3 separate occasions within like 2 weeks of each other had all told me they'd met somebody really cool on Facebook dating. And I was like, I would have never. But my friend said, she's like, yeah, the reason I do Facebook dating is because you don't have to download another app. She's like, I'm so tired of downloading all these apps. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's easy. I'll try it. And I went out on dates. I had a really good date with this guy, Boston. That's his name. He was moving to Boston soon. Again, I told you, these relationships all start out together and they end up long distance. I don't know how. That wasn't a relationship. That was just, we were just dating. We went out on a couple dates. He was really cool. And then he left and we kind of kept in touch a little bit, but not really. I went out on another date. That was the thing too. I was like, I'm not stopping dating at all. Just because I meet someone I like, I'm gonna continue dating and seeing other people. I meet this other guy. He lives in Maryland, but he flies to Indiana to come and actually take me on a date that weekend, which I know that seems like such a grand, beautiful gesture, but to my mom, it was a red flag. And I'm like, man, my mom knows what's up, Lord. So yeah, he was not at all, oh gosh, he was a little bit manipulative, kind of getting a controlling vibe from him. He was also very cocky, and I'll be very frank, there are some guys, some people in general, where I'm like, you know what? I can actually understand why you cocky. You get a little leniency because I can see all the elements that have made up your cockiness. I could not see that with him. I really could not see why he was so cocky. So that was a very sweet gesture, but that didn't work out. I stopped dating him. Then I meet this other guy, trainer, and he's super into gaming, which, you know, I like my little blurs. So that felt like my type. That's my type. But yeah, I felt like he did not know what he really wanted to do with his life, and he was all over the place. And I was not at that place in my life. I was very much focused and driven and making strides to live out my purpose, right? To realize my purpose. So then I met this guy who, he was very sweet. He was in cybersecurity, and I really appreciated the conversations that we had. We had not gotten to the point of a date before I kind of ended things, but this was the first guy who I really put into practice, because one of the things I learned during my year off was about the difference between chemistry and compatibility. So chemistry is all the sparks and the butterflies. It's the feelings. It's right, like, oh my gosh, I love him. He's so sweet and he's this and he's that. And compatibility is aligned lifestyles and shared values. And even though he was very sweet, we had a lot of things in common, there were just some values that we did not share. and they were deal breakers for me. They were very important to me. And he was super sweet. We even, the way we ended things was very sweet. I'm gonna do a side note here, but I do think the way that things end with somebody says a lot about that person. I am that girly who will send a paragraph. And I know the girlies out here will tell you not to do that because they're like, these men don't care, da da da. It's not about them. It's really not about the man. It is about me. It's a way of closure for me. And for some people, I've heard for some people, it's a way where they can go back if they're having a weak moment and they want to text this person. When they go back to the message, the last thing they'll see is all the reasons why they stopped talking to this person. I've made my decision. I've decided not to move forward with things when I send the message, but the way that they respond to that message, if they respond, is very telling. So the guy who had flown down, you made this huge effort within a week of meeting me to come see me, all this, da da da. As soon as I ended things, don't hear from you at all. Didn't even respond to the message. That lets me know where your intentions really lied. So it also lets me know the type of person that you are as well. There's very rare occasions where ghosting, I think, is admissible. I truly think ghosting is one of the nastiest, worst things that you can do to a person. And this is coming from somebody who, when I was upset with people growing up, I would ignore them. They did not exist to me. And it was the worst feeling for them. And I realize that now, of course, that was not the way to handle things, but the impact of ignoring people and not talking to them after you just had all these conversations, it does a lot to your mental health. So I stopped doing that, and I also am not a huge fan of ghosting for that same reason. So that's a very big thing for me. The guy who I didn't have shared values with, his message was so sweet. He was like, I completely understand. He even messaged me a couple of days later, and he was like, oh, you came across my TikTok. You're doing such amazing work. I'm really sorry things didn't work out, but I wish you all the best, and da 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 da. So that told me a lot about his personality. So if for whatever reason things changed with him and he circled the block, I would at least entertain it and see where he is because of the way he responded to that closure message. So anyway, done with the side note. Back to the story. After meeting him, I was kind of ready to get off the apps again. I was like, all right, well, this was fun, but it might be taking up more time than it's worth at this point. After him, though, I matched with my now boyfriend. I felt immediately when we talked, it felt like I was talking to a friend. I didn't have any walls up. I had let kind of my facades go. Any sort of, even if you don't even realize you're doing it, right? This sexy facade. I just felt like with him, I didn't feel like I needed all that. And I felt like I could just talk to him like normal. We just bonded over books, and we bonded over so many different things, and I really felt like he was becoming a friend. Even though he had made his interest and intention very clear, it still felt like he was becoming a friend. The girlies and the guys will tell you, oh, you want a man who loves you more than you love him, or the guys will say you want a woman who loves you more than you love her. If I have to choose, yes, I would prefer that the man loves me more than I love him, but my preference is why can't we just love each other on the same level? I would so much rather us be, because that to me is real partnership. My parents have always said that there is no 50-50 in relationships. It is 100-100. We are both here giving what we can when we can. There was an interview I was watching, I can't remember who it was, but she said, hey, well, sometimes it's not even 100-100. Maybe I'm on 10 today, babe, and I need you to give 100. That it's a back and forth. It's a back and forth, not in a negative way, not like a tit for tat way. It's a back and forth almost like a dance, right? Like a sway. So there's just something about that partnership, because that's what I saw growing up. And that is just beautiful to me. It's so powerful to see when two people are truly working together to build a life, to raise a family, and to encourage and help each other grow. Because I do think relationships are supposed to challenge you, because, hello, you're living with another person. Come on. You're going to wake up one day and be like, man, he's still here? Marriages in particular, marriage is meant to challenge you, but I think it's also meant to help you grow and become become your better self. It's impossible to be your best every day, but I think you can become a little bit better every day. So marriage is there to help you become your better self. And things are still early with him. We're 8 months in. Things have been going really great. Again, started out where we were kind of close. Now we're long distance. He's most likely going to be shipped out to Europe soon. So that is a whole thing that I'm working through. But like I told y'all, I don't know what it is with me in long distance relationships. I truly feel like I might be made for long distance relationships. At least at this stage, I appreciate that I have the time to focus on my business, focus on my career, and just focus on myself when I am here, right? Because he's not here with me. And then when we are together, we're everything to each other, right? I just like that we're able to do that. And I know that won't always be the case, but that's kind of why the long distance doesn't really bother me. I also ain't ever been afraid to hop on a flight. So, yeah, an ocean ain't ever stopped me. I'm very excited about everything going on there. But yeah, I will keep you guys updated, high level, you know, as much as I want to. I'm gonna keep y'all updated. I am usually pretty wary of sharing about my relationship and stuff online, just because my mom is a therapist and she's had a lot of clients who social media can upend your relationship. It can negatively influence your relationship if you are not careful. And also, what is the one thing that people love to do on social media? The algorithms thrive on people engaging and commenting and liking certain things. So when you post stuff about your relationship, people always feel this need to comment. And they're always going to comment through the lens of what they think a relationship should be. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing that I have learned: the relationship is you and this other person. Nobody can tell you how this relationship should be. These are all conversations and things that you and this other person need to talk about and decide for yourself. Nobody else can decide those things for you. And I just don't want to invite that into my relationships. I will share things here and there, but for the most part, I'm gonna keep things on lock, and y'all gonna have to be okay with that. I would love to hear about your dating experience or any lessons that you've learned through dating in the comments below. I gotta go. Let me focus on the road. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, lovelies. Bye.